Welcome back to the Critic and the Cynic. My name's Dave, and I am the Critic with you guys. And with me, as always,
is Hilary,
who is
the Cynic.
To give you a quick recap of what the Critic and the Cynic is, I am an actual film critic that you can see thousands of my stuff online all over the place. Hilary's just my wife. She likes to make fun of a lot of stuff. It's a good way to put it. There's a lot of things that you like, but there's also a lot of stuff that you hate. A lot of the stuff that you hate are the stuff that most people like.
That is true. I have a very low tolerance.
Low tolerance, and you have a high expectation of stuff as well, which is normally what you would see with a critic. But at the same time, you have like, I hate this person, I hate that person, and everybody else is like, why? They're awesome. Anyways, so last week we talked about 6 Hallmark Christmas movies, and we're talking about another 6 movies this time as well. Only one of them will be Netflix. We have our first Netflix holiday film in this group of films. So just like before, we got 6 movies in front of us, and we're going to be talking about each film. And remember, we have not seen any of these films quite yet. We're just kind of looking at the posters, the titles of the films, the premise, the people that are in it, and we kind of make predictions on if these movies are going to be any good or not. Just kind of based off of what they all say. Last week was interesting, but we'll see what we have here. The first one is called A Carol for Two.
Now I'm going to jump in and just say, like, this poster looks old. Like, when I see it, I'm just like, are we watching something from the 60s, the 70s? Like, it looks really old.
I agree with you. The style of it looks like an older film, for sure. The only thing that would make it for sure old style is if it wasn't actually a real picture of the two people on the poster, and instead was like a painting or a caricature or something. If it was like a cartoon or something, then I'd be like, oh, 100%, that is like an old movie. But A Carol for Two, the tagline here is, your dreams find you if you do it right. Duet, right. Duet.
Oh no, is this a musical?
Oh, it doesn't say. It says genres, comedy and romance. Usually if it's musical, it says musical or music. It doesn't say that, but music might be part of it. So let's take a look at the premise of the film. Violet dreams of Broadway, but lands a singing waitress gig at Fiore's? I don't know. Her Christmas Eve duet with Alex, who resents her connections, could be her big break. As they rehearse, Alex's cousin Brad, with Alex's secret help, woos Violet. Alex develops feelings too, creating a messy love triangle that jeopardizes their shot at stardom.
Okay, so this is the first love triangle.
Yeah, I think for sure the first legitimate love triangle, especially because it says it right there in the premise. Who's in this? We have Gianna Claire. Don't know ya. Paul Esembro. Wow, I can't. A lot of these people have names I can't really pronounce, so I don't know what to say about this. Singing is a big part of it.
Well, singing,
it's not not a musical, but it's somebody who dreams of being in musicals.
Okay, well, a movie about music, I'm okay with. But a musical, I really struggle with musicals. They are just not my thing.
No, they might not be your thing, but at the same time, we're talking about Christmas movies, so sometimes we might end up with one because Christmas magic.
Well, if we end up with a musical, I'm gonna quickly veto that.
Remember, guys, we do have 3 buttons that each of us can click throughout this entire viewing experience. One of them, as she had just mentioned, is a veto button.
No, God!
That means that if one of us clicks it, that means that's it. We don't have to watch it. We don't have to really talk about it, other than the fact that, hey, we vetoed it. But we only can do that once through this entire experience. So you're going to say you're going to veto a musical just because it's a musical?
Yes. I cannot deal with
remember,
an hour and a half of
later on in this entire experience, there's supposed to be a football movie.
I would rather watch a football movie. than a musical. You do not understand my hatred of musicals.
Yes, but it's I don't know if it's the Tyler Kelsey or whatever.
Okay, yeah, if this movie, and I suspect that it is based on Kelsey and Taylor Swift, also could potentially be a musical and football, and that would be awful.
a double. But no, anything if it's related to Taylor Swift, I'd probably veto. So, yeah, it's me. But yeah, so we had those 3 buttons. The veto was one of them. Another one was the unicorn button, which I've already clicked for the spy movie last time. That was a great movie. That was a good one. Where the unicorn basically says, "That's it. I'm saying it right here. For the rest of the experience, all the way up to Christmas, this is going to be the best movie out of the bunch. It's so rare. It is so good. It's basically as rare as a unicorn." And the last button is the absolute opposite of that, and that's the crap button, in which we're deciding right then and there that the movie sucks and is the worst of the worst. But yeah, so A Carol for Two is the first of the 6 films that we're taking a look at. I'm not sure. I can tell you that Track.tv has a average rating of 63%, which a lot of these movies that Hallmark has come out with has been in the ballpark of 6 out of 10. I think that's pretty much as average as it comes for this channel, though some movies do have a higher score. I think including the next one, which is the second movie out of 6 that we're taking a look at this week, is Our Holiday Story. This is the one that usually the poster looks religious.
It really does look religious. I'm getting like manger vibes, and I don't know.
Manger
I don't
vibes.
know.
It's just okay. For those of you that can't see this poster right now, all it really is, it's a mostly bluish poster with snow around it, and we have a man and a woman smiling at the camera. And honestly, that's about it. No, that's the poster.
I know, but like every religious movie ever seems to have this like fuzzy background with these 2 people in the sky.
You know what it looks like to me instead of religious is it looks like Nicholas Sparks.
Okay, it could be that too, and the fact that it says Our Holiday Story, like we could be dealing with that type of story.
Okay. All right, so this one is one of the 2 this entire week that is rated the highest out of the bunch. This one's rated 76%, which for a movie like this on the Hallmark Channel, it's actually pretty high up there. Because usually you are expecting lower, and for the most part you will be getting lower. But this is, out of the entire list of movies we're watching this week, this is the 2nd highest rated. So our tagline of this one is called A Christmas Connection. A Christmas Connection. So like a misconnection. Mm-hmm. But they're playing on words. Let's read the premise here. Dave and Nell recount the Christmas where they unknowingly fell in love while working as rivals on a town festival, as their daughter's boyfriend struggles to navigate his own relationship. Okay, hold on a second.
That's a lot.
Somebody needs to get some writing lessons, because we're talking about a run-on sentence here with a lot of stuff going on here. So Dave and Nell recount the Christmas where they unknowingly fell in love while working as rivals on a town festival, as their daughter's boyfriend struggles to navigate his own relationship. What? Okay.
That's just too much
I
information.
have no idea what any of that means.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm getting out of that. Dave and Nell are divorced because it says their daughter's boyfriend struggles to navigate his own relationship. So if it's their daughter, they're either divorced.
Why can't they still be married? I don't.
They could. I guess they could still be married. I suppose it just sounds like, I don't know, something else. Or it said lost connection, missed connection. It could be long lost lovers. It could be exes. It could be something. But
all I can say is
it's a mess. The plot line in this is a mess, which is kind of surprising given the fact that it really does have the 2nd highest rated on this list of movies that we're looking at this week. So, okay, whatever. Who's in this one? We have Nikki DeLoach. Don't know ya. Warren Christie. I don't think I know you. Lisa DeRupt. Sydney Scotia. Princess Davis. I don't know. I don't know. You got anything? I got nothing. I got nothing. Hey, maybe it's better because sometimes these movies, everything seems to point in the direction of it's gonna suck, and it's not that bad. Like last week, we had the 5-year Christmas party, which we were pretty sure that one was gonna suck, but it didn't. It was my second favorite of that week.
Well, I can tell you right now, neither one of these movies so far are exciting me in the slightest.
Oh no, not at all. These are two that I'm definitely dreading.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the third out of the 6 movies that we're taking a look at this week. And this one kind of interests me just because of who's on the poster here.
Yes. So any of you people out there that are familiar with Sabrina the Teenage Witch, we have the ants.
Yep.
Front and center. Well, not really front and center, but like...
They're in the front.
Yeah, they're in the foreground of this poster.
Okay, so this movie is called Holiday Mismatch, okay? And it literally starts off the premise. The premise literally starts off saying best known as the ants on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Like, this is how they are marketing the film. They're like, yeah, we're doing a bunch of these Hallmark films. Everything kind of blends in together. Some things are convoluted, some things are boring, some things are whatever. But at least we can say that this new movie, this has the ants from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And I think that's going to bring in a lot of people just to watch it for that, which is why they're, like you said, front and center on the poster.
Well, because I would tune in, because I liked Sabrina back when it was on. I grew up with that, so I mean, this alone is like, okay, I would tune into that.
Yep, let's take a look at what it says. So, we have the tagline of Merry Mothers Know Best.
Oh, okay, so we've got some overbearing mothers.
We have other overbearing mothers? I don't know. Okay, on the poster, you got those ants from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. They're both holding a half of a cookie that's in the shape of a heart. Yeah. And in the background, you see a couple that are like dating or something.
So
they're fairy godmothers.
Yeah, or they're like overbearing mothers trying to get their kids together, or something.
It's possible that they are overbearing helicopter parents or something like that. But I like to imagine, because they are the witches in the TV show, that they're just kind of playing off of that, maybe being a little bit cheeky and having a little bit of holiday magic, because I'm still waiting for a movie with some holiday magic. So let's take a look at what the premise says. Rhea and Broderick portray women who clash at a Christmas committee meeting and find out that they've accidentally set up their adult children via a dating app. Okay, they are real people. They're not fairy godmothers. Gosh dang it. As their kids fall for each other, the mothers find an unexpected friendship. That's kind of cool. I think that the older ladies having a friendship, I don't know if they're going to be the main characters. I hope they are.
Yeah, I hope
it's gonna focus on the young ones, though. You know it.
Well, sure, but I mean, I'd rather see them kind of going at it and then finding their friendship. Like
it's grumpy old men, but like grumpy old ladies. But I was.
They don't have to be grumpy. They could just be eccentric.
Well, yes, that's okay. Grumpy is what men are, and eccentric are what women are.
Not always. I mean,
means
sometimes,
the same thing.
Sometimes you got some grumpy women, but like I'm hoping for these two actresses that they're more like quirky and eccentric.
Yeah, they'll definitely be quirky. They're funny. They're funny. Well, we'll see. Like I remember them when they showed up in the Netflix Sabrina show. Yeah. That was fun. Because they were playing the same characters, weren't they? Because it was like an alternate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they like still have what it takes. It's like they've never taken a step out of those characters that they played decades ago. They can still jump back into that role. So if they can do that, they can still play pretty funny, quirky ladies. So
I mean, the two of them together are just obviously they're going to have chemistry because they've worked together so many times.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that for that reason only. And I'll say I didn't really watch the Sabrina show. I watched bits and pieces of it. I've seen episodes here and there, but I enjoyed it for what it was. So I'm definitely interested in what they do for this. I was just hoping it was like a magical thing.
Well, I get it. I mean, they absolutely could have gone that direction, but for me, I'm just like, oh no, that's mothers setting up their kids.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the fourth film that we'll be talking about here. And this is the first of the Netflix holiday films. Okay, this one's called Meet Me Next Christmas. All right, Meet Me Next Christmas. This came out November 6th. This, to us right now, that was like 4 days ago. So let's take a look at the premise here. The premise says, on a quest to meet the man of her dreams, a hopeless romantic races across New York City to find a ticket to a sold-out Pentatonics Christmas concert. Have you ever listened to Pentatonics?
They're acapella, right?
Yeah, acapella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely heard of them, but no, I don't exactly listen to them.
I've heard some. They were never one of my main listens. I do like acapella, but when it comes down to acapella, I'm pretty much a rockapella guy only. So the people who sang "Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego," them. I like all their stuff. And then Pentatonics, they're very talented, but they were never somebody that I listened to very much. I'm a little bit worried about this film being a concert movie.
Yeah, and it does give, the poster at least gives some love triangle vibes.
Yes.
Because we have the woman front and center with two men, one on each side in the background. And that just always just makes you think, okay, we've got a little bit of a triangle. Yes.
So it could kind of go any which way. Christina Milian, that's who it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't ever pay much attention to her growing up. I know the name, but that's about it, So Christina Milian's in it. So now we already know, casting wise, it's much more on the recognizable list than anything we've seen with Hallmark.
Sure.
This could go either way. Once again, I said I am concerned about it being a concert related film, but the genre is still comedy romance. Music's not on there.
True.
All right, fine, whatever. That's the first Christmas movie for Netflix.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Now, 2 more movies to discuss before we sit down and we watch them. This one I'm the most intrigued to watch because of the title. Last week it was the 5-year Christmas party, and this week it is Trivia at St. Nick's. I'm a big fan of trivia. I like trivia night at the bar. I like watching trivia game shows on TV. I like playing trivia, games on the phone or board games even. So I'm a big trivia person. So that alone has got me interested in what's going on. The poster for this isn't much of anything. No, we got...
I thought it was a 2, but actually I think
it's
probably
a question mark.
It's
a question mark because of trivia. Yeah, we got your 2 leads that look to be leaning over they're leaning over the dot on the question mark.
Yeah, and that's what was throwing me off, because I'm like, why is there 2 in the background? Because is this a sequel?
It's a sequel.
Trivia
at St. Nick's 2.
Yeah. And
no.
I was just like, oh, that's alarming. But
so, okay, let's take a look and find out what this is all about. So this does have a tagline. It says, "Have yourself a Merry Quizmas." Woo!
So clever.
Hey, that's smart. I like it. I like how all of the taglines don't help at all, and they are all a play on words. It's all puns.
You would like that. I'm just like cringing at them.
This is great. This is great. All right, let's take a look at the premise behind this one, this new rom-com. All right. When students all flee an elite university in Vermont.
Oh, good.
We're back in Vermont. For winter break, the locals and faculty hunker down for their favorite time of the year, the annual Christmas Bar Trivia Tournament. For Celeste, a Type A astronomy professor, this event combines the magic of Christmas with her greatest comfort in life, knowing the right answer. But when her colleague drops out of a tournament to do a month-long lecture tour in Asia, Celeste's team must adopt Max, the football team's new offensive coordinator. To Celeste, Max seems like nothing more than a grown-up class clown, though he brings an undeniable knowledge of sports trivia, a category their team has always fallen short in. Initial clashes between the two eventually turn into mutual appreciation as the team enjoys scavenger hunts on campus, decorating the international house with Christmas lights, baking Christmas cookies, and advancing toward the championship trivia game. That is one long premise.
That is.
It's like the entire movie that we just read.
It definitely felt more like a
Look,
summer.
let's cut that down for a second. Let's say this guy and this girl, they hang out at trivia night. They do some trivia and fall in love.
Well, sure, but you also got that clash. You got the smart, studious girl, and then the jock.
Yes.
You know, they don't initially get along, but they'll find common ground usually. And
that's where the trivia comes into play, like they say. Like, he might be stupid. He could be like one of those comedic geniuses in the movie. Like, he's just hilarious because he's so dumb. But then when it comes down to sports trivia, he's suddenly a genius.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here. But what do we have in this? We have Brant Doherty? Brant
Kind
Doherty.
of looks familiar.
A little bit. He's got something about his eyes there. Tammin Sursuk. What? The people that they cast in these movies, the names that they got.
I almost feel like he might have been on Pretty Little Liars. I don't know.
He's got that look. He's got the Pretty Little Liars look.
Yeah, I would have to look that up, but definitely looks familiar.
Yeah. All right. So again, this is another rating on Trek.tv where it's in the same ballpark of 6 out of 10, 64%, which is a lot of the same score. And that is that's the fifth that we're talking about. And the last movie we will be talking about in this episode is the highest rated of this week, which is called Santa Tell Me.
That looks like a dating show. I'm just gonna say it. Like,
it kind of looks like it, yeah.
She's in the foreground, and it looks like she's making a choice, and then we have 4 eligible bachelors.
Oh yeah,
in
it's
the
just
background.
like the dating game.
That's first impression what I get.
So here's the thing: Trek.tv has this rated at 80%, 80. However, there's only 5 votes. The last ones we've had at least a few dozen votes. And this one, very few people rated it, so that might contribute to the high rating. So take that with a grain of salt. Let's take a look at the premise here, or at least the tagline. The tagline says, "Oh, what fun it is to find a soulmate." The genre of this film is not rom-com, it is romance.
Alright, so then I would hope for a little bit more seriousness and
yeah.
drama.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna doubt that I'm gonna find it.
I mean, when I look at the poster, like where you're eligible bachelors, I'm thinking this gotta be comedy. It's gotta be.
It has to be, but we'll see.
We'll see. So let's take a look at the premise here. When Olivia, a successful interior designer, finds an old letter from Santa promising she'll meet the love of her life by Christmas Eve, and that his name will be Nick, she's stunned to meet not 1, but 3 guys named Nick. In addition to navigating 3 holiday romances, she finds herself drawn to a coworker. So the 4th one's not a Nick.
Okay.
So the 4th one that's not Nick is the one that she ends up with, right?
Well, I mean, probably.
Because it's one of these things is not like the other, and that's probably how movies like this end up with.
And he'll have something weird, like she'll be like, "Oh no, he's not the one because his name's not Nick," and then there'll be like some weird thing where he goes by his middle name and he is a Nick. And,
like he actually is a Nick, and yeah, you're right, probably. Let's take a look at who's in this. So we have Aaron Crickle, sorry, I don't know, Daniel Lissing as Chris. Okay, so these must be the 3 Nicks. And then Benjamin.
Please tell me it's like Chris St. Nick or something stupid.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. Because the first thing I'm thinking of is Chris Kringle. It's Chris Kringle, and because the Nick is what, St. Nick, right?
Yeah.
We have Benjamin Ayres. We have been watching him. Actually, he's been showing up in Smallville a couple times as one of the
fantastic.
As one of the is it the doctors? No, or one of the lawyers that's working for Lex. He's one of the doctors in Saving Hope. And then Christopher Russell and Curtis Sarska are the Nicks. So, whoever Daniel Lissing is, I will say one thing, he's the 2nd name on the cast list, which means he's the guy.
Well, of course, and I'm gonna call it. There's something about him that will show up as a Nick.
Yeah, like you said, Chris St. Nick, or
it's middle name or something like I don't know.
Christopher Nicholas, whatever, or Nicholas Christopher, and he goes by his middle name, or he's just Chris Kringle.
Yeah, I'm gonna call that.
Though This one seems to have the most Christmas-y plot, even though it is just about dating and whatever. She's doing this because she found a letter from Santa promising that she'd find the love of her life. Like, Santa's playing the part of a fortune teller in this.
Okay, did you watch that TV show? And it was very short-lived, but this is what it's reminding me of, is that she went to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller told her that she already met her soulmate. It was one of her exes. And then she starts going through all of her exes, and it's called, like, the ex list or something like that, and trying to, like, revisit them to see if one of them is her soulmate.
I watched 1 or 2 episodes when it came out.
I'm pretty sure there was only 1 or 2 episodes.
Okay.
And then it just got, like...
I liked the concept of that.
Yeah, it was a good concept. It was boring. Like, because it was just the same thing. Like, okay, what X are we gonna look at today? But, you know, I kind of liked it.
It's alright.
It definitely
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. I will say that this movie just may, have actual Christmas magic. We have Santa's message to her, which we're already talking about Santa. I mean, if it's not Santa, who wrote that message to her?
Chris St. Nick.
So hold on a second. She finds an old letter from Santa. How old? She got a stalker?
When she was like a little girl, and she got this weird message from Santa saying, "You will find your soulmate."
You're telling me it's this Chris guy who literally has been stalking her since forever.
It's probably not Chris.
And
but
he played. It's the long con, and he's like, I will have her, and he's like, I will play Santa, and
okay,
that would be some dark stuff.
That would be a Lifetime movie, and not a
Good
Hallmark.
point. We need to be watching some Lifetime Christmas movies, because I feel like it'll be just like One Tree Hill, as all soap opera-y and dramatic and redonkulous.
Hey, soap operas are good enough. They definitely can be entertaining.
That's fine. I will say about this. This movie is made by a writer-director. So this is Ryan Landals. He wrote and directed it. Most of them, you don't see that. That one movie from last week, we had the actor who directed it. But he didn't write it. And this guy wrote and directed it. And I don't think there's anything on his list that I've seen. No.
Nope.
But, hey, if you're writing and directing anything, in my opinion, that means you have a passion to tell that story.
Well, and you have, like, pretty much all the control.
You have all the control. You know what you want out of it. So there's a good chance, just because of that will be the best of the week. But it could also be the worst.
And only time will tell.
So, guys, stick around after the break. If there is going to be a break, I don't know. But stick around, because the next time you hear our lovely, beautiful voices, we will be discussing the films. Because we're about to sit back, and we're about to have a marathon watching 6 movies. Yippee. Let's go. All right. Stay tuned. And welcome back. We have just sat through 6 movies, some of which were, I would say, excruciating for some.
Yes.
Okay.
I had to do it. I had to use the veto button.
The veto button, the nope button.
No, God!
It has occurred. In fact, it has occurred with the very first film of the week that we're talking about, which means that you can no longer do it again. Okay, now, to remind everybody, what was that movie that we just, the first movie?
A Carol for Two.
A Carol for Two. As we had maybe thought, this movie had to be a musical, or at least very deeply rooted in music. And that was definitely the case. This thing started off and had so much music just in the first 15-20 minutes. All Christmas carols.
And yes, it was, the music was the most important part. I mean, granted, we only got 20 minutes in before I'm like, I can't do it anymore. But it was like, music was the main character.
That's a good way to put it. Music is the main character. Yeah. So, and I know you're not a huge fan of musicals, and I don't even consider it to be a musical. It's just people really like Christmas music. Yeah,
they do, but like, it was like every, 5 minutes they were breaking out into another song. It was really annoying.
And you have this woman who really wants to be in Broadway, And it's funny because I was reading comments on this thing while we were watching it, and people are like, who brings Christmas carols to an audition tape if you want to be on Broadway? That's true, but the thing about it is, from what I understand, is that the two leads in this movie, and a big part of why they're so unknown to us, is because they actually are Broadway stars. They were both most recently in the Broadway show for Wicked. She was Glinda. He was, I don't even know. But that is why they're in the movie, and while you're watching it, that's also why, in my eyes, they were gratingly annoying. Like, their singing style was very operatic, is how I mentioned it. It's very much like they think they're all that. On stage, it might be something. In a small venue where you're singing for a select few, it's in your face bad. It's like they're trying to be Mariah Carey or Christina Aguilera, or just like really just the vibrato in the voice, which does not need to be there for Christmas carols, was just a little bit too much. I agree with you there.
Yeah, they were trying too hard. And also, I mean, 20 minutes in, and I didn't give a flying toot about any of these characters, okay? They were boring, they were bland. I wasn't rooting for anybody.
I wasn't rooting for anybody either. They were definitely boring. I wouldn't say to the point where I couldn't sit down and watch the rest of the movie. Would I complain about it being bad? Maybe. I might have eventually hit the crap button, but I wasn't gonna be hitting the veto nope button for this.
Well, I have a very, very low tolerance for musicals, and I agree, this was not a musical, because nobody was breaking out into synchronized dancing, because that makes no flipping sense ever.
It took itself too seriously.
Yeah, it was just...
And not every movie has to make fun of itself and be tongue-in-cheek, but like the first scene that you have in the movie, before it has any kind of introductions into these characters, you have the woman who's singing there like she's all that, singing a Christmas carol. And then the next scene, you have the male lead who thinks he's Frank Sinatra in his club singing Christmas carols.
Well, and like the worst part about it is, like, I don't actually have a hard like I don't mind when they're singing like that and like with all the vibrato like you said, but there was no emotion there. They weren't deeply connecting with these Christmas songs. They were just trying to be fancy, and that's annoying.
Yeah, it was a little bit full of itself, because again, these aren't actors at all. They're not actors. I mean, Broadway actors are actors, I suppose. You can say it that way, but that's not what I mean. I mean, they're not movie actors. Because when you think about stage actors, you think about actors that are more than used to very, very expressionful.
They have to be over the top.
They have to be over the top. But when you do that in a movie,
it's cheesy.
It's not great to look at. And that's kind of how I'm taking it. I agree with you for the most part. I think it's the only disconnect here is the fact that you hate musicals. And because everything else I pretty much agree with. It's just I would have sat down and watched the rest of it. As bored as I might end up being, or as much as I might think the movie was terrible, I would just be like, might as well get through it. It's Christmas carols. We all turn on the car and listen to the radio, and most of us listen to Christmas songs from November whatever on to December.
Yeah, ones that are actually performed well.
Ones that are performed well. From ones that are classic anyway.
It's like, or even, the remakes. Some of those are fun, but this was not fun.
Yeah, there's nothing about it that screams needs to be seen. Sure, there was another hour that we didn't watch. So was there a possibility that somewhere in that hour something amazing happened? Maybe.
Maybe not.
Or maybe not. Or most likely not. It's Hallmark still at the end of the day. So this was your nope selection. I still have mine at the ready. I'm still thinking maybe that football movie down the line, but there's a long road to get there. I might end up using it anyway, but I have used my unicorn, and you've used your nope.
Yeah. Yep.
So there you have it, folks. This is our first recommendation to avoid a movie at all costs because that's what we do.
Yeah, because we couldn't even make it. Well, we made it a quarter of the way through because they're all about 120 minutes.
And I'll admit,
so
when it comes down to when I review movies, or at least a lot when I was younger, I had that 15-minute test in which I knew 15 minutes in what the rest of the movie was going to be like and how I would feel about it by the end. And that's usually what would trigger me to stop watching a movie, is, if anything, would be that. And that's essentially what you did. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've watched about 15, 20 minutes of the movie, and then you're like, I can't do it.
Well, I mean, I probably could have done it, but I might have fallen asleep.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. That's all we can really talk about, because we only saw 20 minutes of it. We don't know too much about the plot other than what we read beforehand. So, I guess that just means that we are on to talk about the next film of this week, which is Our Holiday Story. All right. So this one was interesting.
Says you.
Well, says me. Well, I really don't know. Obviously, you have something against this one. I don't. I think it was fine.
It was a little boring.
Well, they're almost all a little boring, except for the spy movie, in my opinion.
And I actually really did like the two leads. I thought that they were solid choices.
Yes, and I like the lead guy here. Big plus, because he was bearded.
Barely.
Well, no, he had like a 5 o'clock shadow. But technically, when you compare him to everybody else that we've seen movies from, it's a nice change of pace.
Okay, but it was his character. I mean, his character was a little bit on the rugged side.
Yeah. Which is not
small town.
You don't usually see rugged people in Hallmark.
Yeah, you do, because you always go to Vermont and the nature people.
Freaking Vermont! Oh my gosh! But to kind of give you a recap of what this was about, this is the You Got Mail story, because he's like this small town, in tune with nature type of guy. And the main lady here has got a stick up her butt, and she's like a corporate, type of lady, and they're at odds and with each other, but they don't know it when they meet. When they meet, they just sparks fly, they fall in love, and it's kind of like the 5-year Christmas party, where they just kind of keep running into each other by accident. This entire time, they don't know who they are to each other outside of these meetings, and outside of these meetings, they're supposed to hate each other because they're on completely opposite sides of what they want. Very much like You Got Mail. And then, obviously, somewhere down the line, one of them figures out who the other one is, and they're like, oh, what do I do with this? Should I play with the idea, or do I just leave it be? And in this case, it wasn't really one or the other. It was the daughter that found this out.
Well, first, then...
Yeah.
Then another character did.
Yes. Little by little, that's how it goes. The part of it that's kind of unnecessary is the fact that they're telling this story through flashbacks to their daughter's boyfriend, who's, again, this is where things get way out of hand. Like, it's not important. Like, the daughter's boyfriend is trying to figure out a way to tell the daughter that he loves her. And they're like, okay, that's nice. Well, let's get back to our story about how we met. Nothing about the daughter or the daughter's boyfriend was necessary in this. It could have just literally been the flashbacks the entire time, and it would have been fine.
And you wouldn't even need flashbacks. Like, you could have just watched it in a more linear fashion with them meeting and re-meeting and running into each other and all of that. You really didn't even need the back and forth.
I think what they were going for, I would imagine, was this whole, well, obviously at the end of the day, they do wind up together. We know this, we see it. This is just one of those stories where it's like, getting there's half the fun, and we get to learn how it happened, even though everything seemed to be going against it.
Well, it depends on the perspective, too, because the leading man, he was this is fate. We keep running into each other because it's fate. And then the woman's just like, no, we keep running into each other because we're determined to. It's just very different perspectives on like the same things going on.
Yeah. So, I don't know. In general, it's not really the movie I was expecting. It wasn't the movie you were expecting either. You thought it was going to be some kind of religious thing.
Yeah, the cover definitely.
I thought it was going to be some kind of Nicholas Sparks-like thing because of the cover. But really, it was neither. But it was probably closer to mine. But it was, as far as being a Christmas movie, I would say that Christmas is pretty heavy in the film. I would say that even though it is a setting, there is so much. Like in every single scene, even the very first scene when they meet on the train, the train is decorated like it's the Polar Express. Like the entire thing, it's just Christmas.
I feel like you should rewatch it and count how many times they use the word Christmas.
Well, it's that, I was thinking about the way they met on a train. I'm like, okay, there's your before sunset, because that's how that movie starts. The couple meet on the train, and they have a great day together, right? And then you never know if they see each other again. And that was just the first movie. Obviously, they had a trilogy, so they obviously met again. But it was kind of like they were trying to combine these love stories that we've all seen from, You Got Mail, Before Sunset, and all these different things about Polar Express. Not exactly a love story, but definitely a Christmas one. And this kind of combined everything into one, and that's what you get. But I do like the main guy. He's been one of my favorites out of everything that we've seen, other than our spy movie.
Yeah. Well, and I had a little bit of familiarity with him, and it was the voice that tipped me off because he looks pretty different, because he did have a beard in this movie.
Well, it's been
but
a few
he was
years,
clean,
yeah.
But he was pretty clean shaven when I saw him in October Road. But the voice, I'm just like, I know that voice. I know that voice.
And it's a very charismatic kind of guy. Very charismatic voice. He has a way of just delivering any kind of line. I think he could just say anything. It doesn't matter. He has an energy and charisma about him, which is what you want out of a Hallmark movie. Yeah. 100%. If you don't have that, you got nothing. So,
and I would say it's the first actor that we felt that way about.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very interesting. No, I like it, dude. Like the guy, your guy from the spy movie. I thought he was somewhat charismatic, but not the same way. No,
because this guy was just so.
That was fish out of water, like funny, like whatever. This guy is just like every man's dad kind of guy,
He's MILF.
Not
or
no.
What do they call that?
DILF.
The DILF.
DILF.
Okay.
It's not a mom.
Sorry.
Okay. Anyways, you were saying when we started this movie that you wish you had held your veto button for this one.
It was just,
I don't really believe in hitting a veto button for something that's just boring. In my opinion, it's got to be worse than that, and that's why I'm holding off on mine. I would definitely say that the freaking non-stop caroling was worse than this.
Oh yeah, that one had to go.
So, you're fine. I'm still off on my veto and my crap button, I suppose, but you still got a unicorn.
And the crap.
And the crap.
Yeah.
Yep. So, we're seeing where we were head off on that one. Now, where's your percentage on this one, Lie?
Oh no.
Awesome.
55.
55. Oh, you really hate this movie. I would put it in the ballpark of 65. My issue is really, honestly, the daughter and the boyfriend. Completely unnecessary characters. I don't really know what they add. In fact, if they add anything, they add a little bit confusion, because it's like they met, but it's like she's a stepdaughter of the mom.
Yeah, that was in the beginning really confusing, because we saw this daughter who's clearly in her 20s, and then it was like, how did we meet? 10 years ago. And I'm like, okay, she is not 10 years old. What is going on here?
Well, yeah, in the flashback, she's not 10. She's still like 20s in the flashback.
No, she's 16. They said she's 16.
Oh, okay.
So
doubted, though.
So she's mid-20s.
Okay, so she goes from like 16 to 26.
That is a problem I had with the movie, is like they didn't even try to make these people look younger.
They should have.
So 10 years ago, they didn't
try at all. They didn't try at all. I think the guy had a slightly different haircut, and that's about it.
So, and the woman didn't have a different haircut, but she was wearing her hair differently.
She did. She was wearing a different hair, differently, like you said. The daughter, however, they needed a different actress. If you're gonna have somebody play 16-year-old and 26, it cannot be the same person. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I mean, you can have the same person, but you should try. Like, throw fake braces on her at 16 or something. I don't know. Just try.
Yeah. Like big old glasses, braces, and hair and ponytails or something.
Yeah.
Which is stupid and stereotypical and just not realistic. But I would expect more so of a different casting, just somebody that looks like her a lot. Because they do that quite a bit in movies and TV shows now, where they cast people really well and looking like younger versions.
Yeah, they do, but I mean, maybe it's because we have kids and everything.
I think it's because it's the Hallmark Channel. They can't do it.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you look at baby pictures of somebody as a kid, like, you see the same face. So, like, I have a hard time when they have a younger actor or actress playing a different, like, a younger version of the character, because they never get it close enough. I mean, like, they can try, and maybe they resemble each other a little, but, like, I don't know. It's just something I've noticed over the years when I look at people's baby pictures and then I see them 10 years later, and I'm just like, yeah, I can really see the face that you have now back then. Like, it's just a little bit...
Sometimes, I would say that's true a lot of times. Sometimes when I look at baby pictures, I'm like, who is that? So, I guess it all depends on who you're talking about. However, so yeah, 55 for you, 65 for me. That's a combined score of 60.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way. I won't always be able to do that right off the top of my head, but that one was easy. So, as far as if I would recommend this to anybody else, not really.
I mean, if you want to shut your mind off for an hour and a half.
That's pretty much true with all these movies.
Well, yeah.
Hallmark's one of those things where you can literally turn on those channels and go about your day and have it kind of feel like Christmas without needing to play Christmas music because you have Hallmark Channel on. It's one of those things.
Yeah, so if you're homesick and you have your tea next to you and you're under some blankets and you turn on the Hallmark Channel, like, yeah, okay, this'll do it.
That'll do it. That'll do. Okay, so that's the second film that we're talking about this week. Let's talk about the third, which is called Holiday Mismatch. This one. This is the one with the ants from Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. Same people. Always the same people.
So I did like the fact that this movie centered around basically like a non-romance, really. The two main characters were at odds with each other, and while there was a romance, it was more of a background story.
Yeah, and in the romance angle of it, this is where they decided to get weird again with their stuff getting too convoluted, I would say. And that is, well, we have all this rivalry going on with the older ladies. Everything going on in their own lives about questioning retirement and what to do. You also had the stuff with the young lovers. Now, they were also doing the just go with it, fake a date until we actually fall in love thing that we already saw last week with 'Twas the Date before Christmas. It was the same thing. Though, I will say that it actually makes a little bit more sense and was focused on a little bit better in this film than 'Twas the Date. 'Twas the Date was just, it was a holiday get-together. You got your family Olympics with Christmas-themed stuff going on the whole time. And you kind of forget that they're doing this whole thing where they're faking the fact that they're dating. This one was actually focused on quite a bit more because that was part of the charm. Yeah, the young lovers, they were faking dating while their mothers were trying to break them apart.
Right.
That's essentially what the plot was, which is double the fun. I mean, in theory it is, but like I said, it is a little bit convoluted. Too much thing going on, when really we didn't need to focus on that much. But I do appreciate that there was a fair amount of balance there. The last movie, we had the parents and the kids, and there wasn't much focus on the kids. So when there would be this odd focus on them about, hey, oh yeah, let's bring in the fact that they're going through something too. Let's say that this guy's struggling saying I love you, and then this girl's like, commitment, yikes. In this one, there was a fair amount of balance on focusing on both these two different people, or at least two different groups.
And I would say that both groups were maybe equally or almost equally likable, whereas the previous movie, the kids were just... They were there to further the story along for the parents. It was not really anything about them.
But it's nice to see, like you said, that the main characters, the central main characters, were these two older ladies, and it wasn't a romance. So,
right.
Yeah, but the romance was there. It was just that it's a nice step back from what we're used to seeing with Hallmark.
And compared to this previous movie, we still had that dynamic, like one free spirit and one person with a stick up their butt. Like it was just, like these just two people at odds.
It is. It's not a romance. It's a friendship.
It was a friendship.
Right.
And I don't know how many people saw Grace and Frankie, but the same type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that friendship can be really awesome, and you don't need that romance anymore.
True. I can get behind that, and like you got friendship and you got romances, and they kind of follow the same beats. Opposites attract. Doesn't necessarily have to mean attract to the point of falling in love, but it can mean appreciate each other, and in terms of just friendship.
Yeah, because everybody has their own strengths, and once you learn to appreciate that, then it makes those relationships even deeper.
All right, so let's see some 3 positives to say about this. Obviously, the aunts.
Yes.
They've had chemistry for decades at this point. We knew going in that they'd have chemistry.
Right.
I would say the slight step back from romance to friendship in this. The romance is there. I feel like it has to be no matter what. But the fact that it is more so about friendship than anything else is a positive for me. And you got anything else?
I mean, it was fun enough.
Enough. Yes.
It was a little bit forgettable, but I mean, it was fun.
Yeah, put that in quotation marks. Fun enough. Hilary, 2024. Yeah, sure, that's a positive. Fun enough. But if you were to rate it,
well, it's better than the previous one, so I'll go 65, like your last one.
Last one I said 65, and this one, I'll say 65 as well. I think that they both have positives and they both have negatives. And the negatives with this, I would just have to say, I was a little bit bored at times. The general premise was fine. I feel like it was a little bit dead in the water for a while though, because it wasn't advancing anything.
Right.
Until, things get learned and people realize things, and then it can move at that point. But a lot of the silliness throughout the film was neither here nor there for me, just because narratively it wasn't really going anywhere. So that's the part that felt a little bit stagnant to me, felt a little bit boring, and I wasn't as fully engaged as I was with the last one, in certain regards. So I will also say 65, just because I think same amount of positives and negatives, just it's different. So short, sweet, and now we are on to number 4, our 4th film, which is called Meet Me Next Christmas, which is the first Netflix Christmas film, as well as something that I would rather call just Pentatonics the movie. You got nothing?
Oh, I was begging him to use his veto button.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It's not that bad. I think in terms of, if you're going to compare this to any of the movies that we saw previously, I would compare this to the very first movie that we saw for this entire experience, which was 'Twas the Date Before Christmas, because 'Twas the Date was about those Christmas Olympics, right? And so there's that game element that you had in that film, which you have in this one as well. There's also a comparison that I made to the Nutcracker movie that we watched as well, in terms of the plot reminds me of Jingle All the Way. Just instead of the Turbo Man doll, or in the case of the Nutcracker, what she's trying to find or get is very hard to find tickets to a Pentatonix concert. Because it is on Netflix, I noticed a very specific uptick in quality in terms of visuals. Just very slight things. It's not anything extraordinary in terms of cinematography or costume or whatever, but I did see and notice a slight interest on how colors and how lighting affect a movie, just the atmosphere of a film. There's a lot of red and a lot of gold in it, which is very holiday themed in terms of colors, and there was a much more balanced, neutral, film-like quality with the white balance, so that it actually feels like a movie versus the Hallmark films, which to me feel like point and click. Whatever automatic settings are on a camera are what you're gonna get when they turn it on. They didn't set up their cameras or something to actually look good for movies. They do their thing.
Well, that's all true. Like, this one did feel more like a studio type movie, like just a regular Christmas movie that would come out by any of the major studios, but it was higher in quality. It didn't have that automatic cheesy TV movie feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is true. And that could just go all the way down to, frame rate, Even just a slight difference in frame rate from one to the other could make all the difference. But this is kind of where I'm the critic and you're the cynic, because I'm just listing off a bunch of technical things about the movie, and I'm not talking about anything else. But you are the cynic here, and pretty much everything you were rolling your eyes off.
It was just so corny. It was the music. I couldn't. Oh God, it was awful.
It's definitely gonna make a difference for you if you are or are not either a fan of Pentatonix in general or a cappella music, which I'm a fan of a cappella in general, but I prefer to listen to them here and there. I don't want to listen to 2 hours of a movie where it's just non-stop a cappella music. Absolutely not. And I've never really been a huge fan of Pentatonix either. I like a couple of their songs. For the most part, I don't sit there and listen to them all day like these characters do. Like, Pentatonix is all of these characters in this movie. All of them. It's their entire world. Like, they are in love and obsessed with Pentatonix. Pentatonix tickets are harder to come by than Taylor Swift. Like, it is ridiculous how much they are absolutely obsessed with this band in this film. It makes me laugh a little bit because Pentatonix is a band that people probably are aware of, but there's no way am I ever going to believe that they are that popular or as hard to come by for tickets. I lost my train of thought.
No. Well, I will say that there's really nothing wrong with this movie. You can't be like, oh, the acting is bad, or oh, the quality's bad, or the story was just not thought out. Like, none of that's true. It was just boring and not for me.
Yeah, I will say that, I was bored. One of the main issues with the film is that it's an hour and 45 minutes.
It was way too long.
Which,
I kept thinking it would be over.
An hour 45 minutes is, today, that's like the industry standard for a length of a normal movie. It's no longer an hour and a half anymore. And so when we're used to watching these Hallmark movies, which are at a max an hour and 24 minutes, seeing something that's 20 minutes longer, you feel the runtime now. It's like night and day. And if you're not a fan of Pentatonix and they annoy you, it's going to make it even worse. Mm-hmm. And obviously Pentatonix is playing a character in the film as well. They're basically playing the audience. Because they're sitting there on their phone and they're, more or less, they're watching the events of the film play out through social media. Every now and then when you watch a movie, there is going to be a main character or a side character or somebody that ultimately they're portraying the function of the audience. They are to answer questions for the audience and to relate with the audience and vice versa. If you go back and you watch Inception, that would be Elliot Page's role. Their role.
Right, yeah.
They know nothing about this dream world, and they're getting taught every step of the way what it's all about, right?
I mean,
so they're the audience, and in this case, Pentonix is the audience.
Well, same with, if you look at Harry Potter in the same way, he knows nothing about that world of magic and wizardry.
And most of the time, you're talking about a main character that you're focusing a lot of the film on. It's the heart and the soul of the film. That's why this one's kind of weird, because Pentonix aren't the main character. They are absolutely 110% a side character that they just shoot random times. They just shoot to them for some commentary about what's going on, while they also harmonize that commentary, because one of the running gags is weird. They always harmonize, even when they're just talking or reacting.
And that's weird.
Like, what? Which, like, if you let it go and you're just having a good time to have a good time, it's funny. But the problem comes down, any kind of comedy has the same problem. If you outlive that joke and you do it over and over and over again, it starts to become a little bit old and annoying, which I think in this case it did.
Sometimes yes, but sometimes it gets funnier every time. Like, for example, Pitch Perfect. I hated that movie the first time I saw it. I thought that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And then I watched it again, and it was a little funny.
That's true.
And then every time I've watched it since then, it's just a little bit more amusing. And now I like it. And I tried to get the kids to watch it with me, and they did not like it. But that's okay.
It's a
little bit old for them. Still,
yeah. They wouldn't appreciate it for what it is until they're older anyway. But I agree with you. It does. It gets funnier every time you watch Pitch Perfect, for sure.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you can watch this again, see if it's funny.
Okay, I didn't think anything about this movie was funny. That's the problem. I don't even think it was trying to be funny.
It was, especially when it came down to the commentary from Pentonix. The storyline, it didn't work for me because, yes, it was about this woman essentially doing whatever she possibly can to get a ticket to see Pentonix, because she has this weird belief that this guy she met for a couple hours at an airport or something.
Yeah.
An airport lounge. She thinks it's going to be the one.
Well, right.
She met for a couple hours, like the year before.
And that is a little bit unrealistic, though, too. I mean, who the heck gets out of a serious relationship? They break up with their long-term relationship and then immediately think about this person they met a year ago and are like, oh, yeah, well, maybe he's the one. I mean, people don't think like that. It's weird.
They don't. However, if you're one of those hopeless romantics, you like to think that's how it works.
Okay, I like my romance with a side of realism. So.
And I like my Christmas movies with a side of magic, and I've still yet to see one.
Oh, you mean you didn't think it was magic running all over the city looking for these stupid tickets?
Oh my gosh, that's not magic. That's insanity and obsession.
But she was just like, oh, look, it's a sign. Because this is like that guy I met a year ago. And I'm like, no, it's Christmas. Of course a Christmas song is playing.
That's what the joke was, because the guy she was hanging out with and who was helping her try to find these tickets was like, maybe it's just a Spotify Christmas list and it's just on there because it's a popular song. But I'm still waiting for a legit Christmas magic movie. I know it will be in Hot Frosty.
No.
Yes.
That one, oh my god. I watched the trailer and I shouldn't have done that because now I'm just more horrified that I have to watch this.
It's so good. Have you seen Jack Frost?
Yes.
You did? With Michael Keaton?
Yes.
There was also a horror film that came out like the same year for some odd reason, which is like the same plot called Jack Frost.
Yeah, which was very confusing to me as a child.
Yeah, because whenever there was a couple times where I picked up that horror one at the Blockbuster Video or whatever, I was like, oh, no, wrong one. Why does he look so scary on that one? My mom would be like, no, wrong one. but that was a Nickelodeon film. But I think in Hot Frosty, if I saw it correctly, his name in that
is
Jack.
Yep.
So Jack Frost. Again, who knows?
Okay, yeah.
It's like a remake of it.
Maybe it's Jack Frosty this time. Jesus. I just can't with that movie.
Look, find me another freaking film that we're watching during this entire experience, this marathon of Christmas films, that has magic, because for some reason none of them do.
Okay, well, it's not on the list, but that one with Jack Black where the kid actually wrote to Satan instead of Santa.
Yes.
And yeah, like that one looks good.
Dear Santa, I feel like we should watch that if it's possible and have like our own episode on that alone.
Well, because we're talking about Jack Black, so you know that's going to be funny.
Yeah, I love Jack Black. Even if some movies aren't the best, he's usually good in them.
Well, he's always amazing.
But now we're getting off topic, because whatever happened to Meet Me Next Christmas? Okay, we gotta talk about, I already said some positives. I don't know if you agreed with the positives for the most part.
Well, I agreed that it was definitely higher quality, higher caliber, whatever you want to call it, but...
And Pentatonics are talented. I'm not gonna say they're not talented. If you're a fan of acapella, they are... they're up there. They are what I consider to be the modern rockapella. Now, rockapella was more my jam, not so much Pentatonics, but they are both talented in their own right. So, what would you rate it?
Like 45.
Oh, God. Now, you're looking at the time duration of the film, and you're saying an hour 45. Ah, yes, let's rate it 45.
Highest would be like 50. Okay, like I don't ever want to think about this movie again.
Look, I'm giving it a 65 again. Because, look, higher quality, it deserves respect. We had a bigger name in there, whether you're talking about Pentatonics or Milan. The main issues that I had with it, there's no chemistry. Do you think there's chemistry? Because I didn't really sense it. I think it was a problem with acting, more so than chemistry.
She had chemistry with the guy that she thought she was gonna, be her soulmate. There was that immediate connection there, but that was intentional. Mm-hmm. And I think that the guy that she spent all the time with during the movie, I think it was more of a back and forth friendship that, was kind of just surprised both of them, really. Mm-hmm. And I think that was okay. I think that was portrayed well. And I think the chemistry kind of moved along that track. So I don't think there wasn't chemistry. I just think that it was intentionally not supposed to be romantic right off the bat.
Gotcha. Okay. So I guess when it comes down to chemistry, you sensed it more than I did, which is interesting for your 45% score.
Well, because chemistry or no chemistry, I did not like this movie.
All right. Well, again, I'm going to give it 65. I think in general, in terms of what they were going for, they achieved. I think that the higher caliber of quality should be recognized, and I do recognize it. It's not my favorite because I'm not a huge fan of Pentatonics, and it's like everybody's obsession with Pentatonics being like apparently the only band on the planet is what it seemed like. Was
they mentioned Macklemore.
Really weird. They did, yes.
So, it couldn't be the only band on the planet.
But apparently they're not good enough. So...
No, actually, they kind of dissed him.
Yeah.
So, it's fine.
So, I'm sticking with my 65, but we have 2 more movies to discuss this week. Alright, starting with the 5th film, which is called Trivia at St. Nick's. So...
That was a doozy.
Yeah, it was something else. This is the movie that, like last week, where I was kind of interested in watching a movie solely based off of the title. So in last week, you're talking about the 5-Year Christmas Party, and this one we're talking about trivia. Like I said before, I am a big fan of trivia in general, so that's really the sole reason why I was intrigued on watching this. And to give you a quick recap on what it's about trivia. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about a bunch of people that really like to go to a quote-unquote bar to go play trivia, except for the fact that there's nothing about this bar that feels like a bar. In fact, I believe what I said while watching it is it feels like they rented out a special room in a library to do their little trivia matches, because that's the extent of what you're going to find in this movie. Our two leads here, you had pointed this out, are both from Pretty Little Liars.
Yes.
I would actually point out that as one of the positives here, because you're not just talking about one person from something that we watched in the past, but you're talking about two different people. So these are people that already had chemistry, not too much unlike our aunties from Sabrina and the Teenage Witch.
Right.
So you got a couple people that have worked together in the past. Whenever that happens, you know that they're going to have at least a little bit of chemistry.
Yeah, but nothing could save this.
Here's the thing. The movie's boring. It is. It's 110% boring. What I wanted out of it is not what I got. I didn't want them to keep coming back to more and more trivia matches. I thought it was going to be like this one trivia match that was ridiculous, like really hard or really interesting or whatever, maybe swapping viewpoints from character to character to see how they're doing, you know. But the fact that they kept on going back to this thing, that's what ultimately made it boring for me.
So you would have rathered one big trivia match and just like them preparing for it, like the whole...
Yeah, like before, during, and after for your 3-act structure. And the preparation's one thing. That'll be, you know, introducing you to all the characters, right? They all need some kind of introduction. But the during is the most substantive part of the movie, in my opinion. There's a stronger focus on the trivia part where you're actually invested in whatever team you're voting for.
I was invested in no one. These were all ridiculous, over-the-top characters that were driving me crazy.
Well, yes, but this is where it gets interesting, because as I have said in the past, we are always supposed to give it 3 positive things. I already said our leads here from Pretty Little Liars. Obviously, they had some chemistry that they could bring to the table, which is interesting. I like the premise of trivia, even though I do not think that they executed that premise as well as they could have. And I left it for one thing for you to give one good thing about it.
It is possible that we learned some facts about Christmas and reindeer that we didn't know before. That's it.
We actually learned some trivia of Christmas, like how fast reindeer can run if they are not powered by magic. So real top speeds running of reindeer. So that's something else. There's not much to this film narratively. Anytime that they went away from the trivia match, I couldn't care less of what they were doing. Nothing was happening. And the fact that they're all kind of obsessed with trivia, I guess some people are. But to this extent, and I love that one of the trivia questions had to do with Hallmark Christmas movies.
Oh yeah, that was.
It was hilarious because everybody had their own favorites. Everybody believed that they were all beloved, and they're like, "No, it's this. No, it's that." And I'm like, "How do you guys even know one of these movies?" No, apparently everybody's favorite thing in the world is also, just as a nice little tongue-in-cheek thing, is that they all really like Christmas Hallmark movies.
And the great part about that little section is I swear they spent more time on the Hallmark trivia question than any previous.
That's right. That's right. Because
the
the old guy is like, "Oh yeah, I love Friends, the TV show, but maybe even more so than Friends, I love Hallmark Christmas movies." It's like, how do you make that distinction? Now you gotta give it a percentage.
40. It was bad.
40%, folks. You know, funny enough, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think of what I would give it. And honestly, before you said that, I was thinking 35.
Oh, I cannot be higher than you, okay? Fine, 25.
Well, you can't be high. No, you can be higher than me.
No, I hated this movie so much.
I'm just talking, you know, I'm the critic. So I'm just saying, you know, narratively, I think it was a little bit jumbled. I think that they could have just focused on one trivia match and just make that the movie, and it would have been a lot smoother, and it would have made a lot more sense. You would have been much more involved in what was going on in the trivia, and potentially what was going on in each group that was playing trivia. Maybe you would be rooting for one over the other. But as it is, because they jumbled it up, and because they split it apart into how many god-awful trivia matches...
5.
Like, what's the point of that?
It was 5 rounds.
5
that
rounds?
Were different nights.
But different nights.
So stupid. I mean, that's not how trivia works.
It doesn't, because if you think about it, Christmas trivia is something, okay? That exists. But usually it's one night.
And if you have 5 rounds, it's just still all in one night.
It would still be, yeah, exactly. So the fact that you would keep going back to this one spot, St. Nick's pub or whatever. Pubs and bars usually have trivia nights one night a week, which means 5 different nights would be past a month.
Which it wasn't. It was like night after night
Which,
for a week.
That doesn't happen. As far as I'm concerned, bars have different events every single day. Karaoke, open mic, trivia night, live music, and just a regular night of not having any of that, right? You can't have trivia every single night, and it can't always be themed after the same thing.
Well, and if it was, even if they kept with the whole Christmas trivia junk, they would go, okay, this is sports Christmas trivia. Why couldn't they just do different nights? Like, why couldn't one of the nights been all sports and the next night was all plants? I mean, like, it just didn't make any sense.
Why?
Because they had multiple rounds with different topics each night for 5 nights. It's just weird.
It is. It's jumbled. It's all over the place. It's something that I consider to be easily avoidable. Anytime that I'm watching a movie and I'm like, well, if I did it, I would do it this way, and then I start listing off A, B, and C, that's when I know that a movie's probably not all that great. The approach that it takes is just sloppy. And ultimately, I think that trivia at St. Nick's is sloppy. But here's a question for you. If you didn't use your nope veto button for your musical at the beginning of the week, would you have used it here?
Probably not. I mean, because it's bad and it was annoying and I did not enjoy any of it.
Right.
But it wasn't like nails on a chalkboard bad.
Yes, because you also didn't use your crap button.
Right.
I'm actually kind of surprised, but I would also be surprised if you used 2 buttons in the same week. Goodness gracious. But who knows? We have one more movie to talk about here, and we have more buttons that are available. You still have a unicorn and a crap. I still have a crap and a veto. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, Trivia at St. Nick's, not the greatest movie in the world. Definitely probably the second worst of the week. But we have yet to see the last movie that we're talking about this week. The 6th film that we're talking about, which is called Santa Tell Me.
I had a lot of fun with this one.
And I was expecting it to be good, basically because so far, you know, Tracked.tv's ratings, just in general, have been pretty accurate to how we felt about them. Like 9 times out of 10, the ratings are in the 6 out of 10 range, like 63-64%, most of them. This one was rated 80, so that's actually similar to last week with the Spy movie. That one was rated the highest out of everything we watched that week for everybody else, and the same goes with this one. I was very curious to see on why that was the case based off of the plot summary, which, once again, if you forgot, this is the one where this businesswoman runs into a letter from Santa that says, yeah, guess what? Your true love, his name is Nick. And so she runs into a bunch of Nicks, and then there's this other guy, her coworker, who she kind of likes more than the Nicks, and you're like, well, obviously that's the one who she's gonna end up with because it's not a Nick, but you know, whatever. So yeah, this one was a lot of fun. I think it was charming, but above all that, it was actually well put together.
Yeah, immediately you can tell. It just felt like a regular studio movie, not necessarily like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, that's one thing that I agreed when you mentioned that. Immediately when you turn on the movie, to me it felt bigger. It felt more like an actual movie, like you said, studio. And it's just in the way that it was put together. The editing was pretty good right off the bat. The acting was better. It had a crisp look and sheen and feel about it that felt like the cameras they were using were probably just a tad bit more expensive than what they had been using. And it just altogether felt like something you might be able to see in the theater. Might. A couple moments here and there I'm like, it's a little bit cheesy. It's a little bit like a TV movie for sure, but yeah.
Well, but I thought those cheesy moments were intentional because they always happen with the Knicks. You're not supposed to like the Knicks, I don't think. Like they're outwardly perfect, but like the cheesy moments and the cheesy lines always come from them because they're just so like fake and floofy.
Well, they're also the comedic reliefs of the film. It was kind of cool because they also had a lot of chemistry, I think. I think everybody had a good amount of chemistry with everybody.
Yeah, everybody seemed very natural.
Yeah, so the first Nick was an actor that I've seen before in Smallville, and there was a medical show called Saving Hope that he was also one of the main doctors in, and he played a doctor in this as well. And then the second one, Nick B, because there's Nick A, Nick B, Nick C. Nick B, I would say out of the Nicks, he was the most charming, and he was like the down-to-earth. He's like the carpenter type of guy who he builds chairs, and then she uses the chairs and the furniture for her home design stuff. And then the third one's an idiot.
He had a beard.
He
which
did have
you always appreciate.
The bearded guys that's usually the go-to for the ladies, and for me. But the third Nick C, he was the lovable idiot. He was the fireman that absolutely has no clue about how the world works, and he cannot read into common sense. He's stupid.
Yeah.
And then the Chris, who she, obviously likes more than the Knicks, the coworker, they have this banter going on right from the get-go in the movie because she doesn't know who she's talking to, and she is unknowingly bashing him to pieces before she realizes, oh shoot, that's the guy I've been talking about. And then they have this fun little banter, and there's a natural chemistry between them. So in general, I think as a whole the movie works rather well. I do believe that it is the best of the films that we watched this week.
I would agree with that, and I hemmed and hawed about using the unicorn button, but I'm thinking as we get closer to Christmas that there's probably going to be something better, but this one was a lot of fun, and I do think that most people would enjoy it.
I was curious if you were going to use that unicorn button, because that would have been hilarious, because you would have went from veto to unicorn in the same week. But as it is, if you're not going to give it a unicorn, what would you rate it percentage-wise?
I mean, I'll stick right around 75-80.
Yeah, the number that was stuck in my head the entire time was 75. Because for me, the spy film, I rated 80. So you would still say that the spy movie's better than this?
They're very different movies. It's really a different reason why you rate it that high, but they're both rewatchable. Like, I would rewatch either one of those.
Yeah, apples and oranges for sure. I think in terms of rewatch, the only one that I would often go back to is the spy one. This one I could see rewatching once. It's definitely much more in the ballpark of Christmas, though.
Okay, but what if it's like Christmas time and you're sitting there and you've got the Hallmark channel on and you're just channel surfing and you see this movie come up and you'd be like, oh yeah, I liked that one. So like I would totally leave it on.
Oh yeah. When I've rated movies in the past, that's one of the questions I've asked for rewatchability factor is, are you going to go out and are you going to purposefully try to seek this one out to watch it again? Or if it just so happens to be airing on TV again, would you be like, oh, okay, I liked that, let's watch it again? there is a difference.
Well, there's a difference, and I'm not sure that I would seek this one out, but I would definitely tune in if I was just channel surfing and I saw that it was on.
So I probably agree with that. Because the spy one I might seek out, just because it just knew how ridiculous and how fun it was, and just reveled in it. But as it is, I would say 75% for this. But that kind of brings it into question how we rank the entire week. I know what the bottom one is. That was your veto.
Yeah, that was not.
A Carol for Two is the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. Okay, number 2, I would say Trivia at St. Nick's.
The second worst?
The second worst, Trivia at St. Nick's. That was just boring. Then I would probably
go... The Christmas, the Meet Me Next Christmas, that was awful.
You thought it was awful. I had more fun with Meet Me at Next Christmas than with Trivia at St. Nick's. So I would probably put Meet Me Next Christmas as third worst, or otherwise known as right smack dab in the middle. And then... let's see. I don't know. I kind of would probably do Holiday Mismatch next.
No. The Holiday Story was not for me. Or our Holiday Story.
But I liked it.
I know, but I didn't.
I liked it.
And I complained Actually, I complained throughout the entire movie for all of these, except for Santa Tell Me.
That's right. You did, yes. That's why I'm trying to realistically rank this, because you're just going to be like, no, that one's worse. Well, to you, it's like all equally worse, so it's not...
they were bad.
So, and that brings me to the top 2, I would say would be Our Holiday Story, and then Santa Tell Me. So, from bottom to worst, again, A Carol for Two, Trivia at St. Nick's, Meet Me Next Christmas, Holiday Mismatch, Our Holiday Story, and Santa Tell Me was the best of the week. And remember, A Carol for Two is the one that got the veto button from Hilary, and I did not use any buttons this week. But next week we have yet another 6 more movies to talk about, so make sure you tune in and find out what Hallmark and Netflix have in store for us this time. Next week is we do have Hot Frosty, so I'm really excited about that one.
Yeah, and I'm going to be very upset that I used my veto button
already
because
I know I'm going to be so upset that I already used my unicorn button.
Oh my god, that one was so
oh
terrible.
my god,
the idea of the story is terrible. The preview looks terrible. No.
It's gonna surprise you, I think.
No, it's not.
It's gonna surprise you.
No.
So, guys, if you are listening, you can go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section down below. Did you watch any of the Hallmark Christmas movies that we talked about in this episode? If so, which ones stood out to you as great, maybe just okay? Which ones stood out to you as dumpster fire? All of them, right?
Except for Santa Tell Me.
Except for Santa Tell Me. That one was weirdly just fit. I feel like every week, there might be something every single week where it's like, that one's just weirdly good out of the rest of them.
Yeah, and you didn't even talk about the fact that that was the only one that had the Christmas magic. And
yes.
You've been waiting
oh
for
my
that.
gosh, yes, I forgot. Because I forgot to say it because I had been saying it all throughout watching it. But yes, Santa Tell Me had real Christmas magic, and that's one of the reasons, though. I did say that it's the only one that actually felt like Christmas out of the bunch because of that. So it literally is a letter from Santa. You see the words magically appear on a piece of paper. You see the words transform throughout the movie as messages change. So
yeah,
it's real magic.
And Santa definitely made an appearance.
Oh yeah, and Santa, he's in there. He's watching from the distance.
Although he's more like a Cupid, but it's okay.
He's acting much more like Cupid. I don't think Santa really cares about matchmaking. That is true, but he does care about people being happy and getting their wishes. So like, the whole reason why Santa intervened at this point was because it was a Christmas wish. So I mean, it's there. It makes sense. It makes a little bit more sense if it was a Valentine's Day movie. I agree with you there. But because it had the Christmas magic and it had Christmas music and I don't know, it just, everybody was having a grand old time. I do believe that this one felt like Christmas.
Yes.
Anyways, so guys, once again, leave those comments down below, and we'll see you next week. 6 more movies to discuss. Let's see the good ones, let's see the bad ones, and until next time, peace out.